Sitting on the bench in the gynecology corridor, Maisie repeatedly dialed Chenming's number. The beep, beep sound was like a rusty dull knife scraping across her heart. A young nurse impatiently ran out of the operating room. Xiaoyang, where are you? Are you here? Only a few pregnant women with swollen eyes and faces looked up. In the corner, there was a young couple, the girl crying and fussing, while the boy soothed her with a gentle demeanor. In the deep winter night, Maisie stepped on the dirty snow on the street, walking home step by step. She stopped downstairs, seeing the window of their home pitch black. Chenming had not returned yet. Maisie walked to the entrance of the building. A sharp pain in her abdomen made her curl up in the shadows, squatting down, trying hard to regulate her breathing. The high beams of a car accompanied by the sound of tires crunching on the ice and snow approached. Maisie recognized it as Chenming's car. Supporting her weak body, she reached out towards the light. Chenming unfastened his seatbelt and picked up his phone. He should have seen the dozens of missed calls from her by now. Before Maisie could stand up, she saw a woman pressing herself against him inside the car. The woman was beautiful. In such cold weather, she was only wearing a low-cut lace blouse. Maisie unconsciously clenched the thick cotton coat around her body. Chenming got out of the car, and the woman rolled down the window to call after him, "I'll pick you up tomorrow morning." "Okay, be careful on the road." Chenming's smile was so charming, his eyes curved with delight. Maisie hid in the darkness, watching eagerly as Chenming walked past her without noticing. She wanted to call out to him, but no sound came from her throat. By the time Maisie opened the door and walked into their home, Chenming was already asleep. On Maisie's phone, there was a message from Chenming. "What's up? I was in a meeting during the day." Just that one message, and nothing more. In the morning, as usual, Chenming woke up to the familiar aroma of fried eggs. He looked at the side of the bed next to him, which was neat and cold. Walking into the kitchen, Maisie was staring blankly at the pot of fragrant preserved egg porridge. The morning light fell into her eyes, reflecting as if into a deep sea, with not a hint of brightness penetrating through. A woman in her 30s truly could not withstand the pull of time. Crow's feet at the corners of her eyes, nasolabial folds by her mouth, and a slightly hunched back. When did these wrinkles appear? Chenming cleared his throat. "Last night you." The hearing aid on the dining table made him swallow the second half of his sentence. By the time Maisie brought breakfast to the table, Chenming had finished washing up and walked out of the bathroom. Maisie ate her porridge unhurriedly, while the scent of cologne on Chenming was stronger than usual. When they had just started dating, Chenming always liked to meet Maisie under a big tree in the downtown park. The sunlight was so good, and the days were quiet. "Stop hiding, I know it's you," Maisie said with her eyes closed, not even turning her head. Hiding behind the tree, Chenming reluctantly threw down his backpack and messed up Maisie's hair domineeringly. "Every time you find me, tell me, do you have eyes on the back of your head?" Maisie took a deep sniff at Chenming's neck. "Did you put on a whole bottle of cologne? The whole street can smell it." Chenming turned his head and muttered, "I just don't want you to think I smell like sweat." A small warm hand gently caressed Chenming's Adam's apple. Maisie, smiling mischievously, snuggled into his arms. "I don't mind, I'll never mind." "You." Chenming looked into Maisie's eyes for confirmation. Maisie touched Chenming's Adam's apple. "I can recognize your words just by touch." "Maisie, you're amazing." Chenming spun around with Maisie under the tree. He didn't know how many nights Maisie had stayed up practicing. "Time is not the most terrifying thing. What I fear is that I'm still waiting under that big tree while you've already forgotten the time we agreed upon." Chenming's phone rang. His pretense of calm made Maisie smile inwardly. After so many years together, how could he fool her eyes? "Wait for me, I'll be right down," Chenming said, glancing at the hearing aid on the table, and hurriedly hung up the phone. Maisie's indifferent demeanor made Chenming let his guard down a bit. Chenming placed Maisie's hand on his Adam's apple and enunciated clearly, "I'm going to work. I might work late today. Don't wait up for me. Go to bed early." Maisie nodded obediently. Chenming stood up, paused, turned back. Maisie was tidying up the dishes as usual, her face showing no unusual expression. "What is it?" Maisie approached Chenming. The cologne smelled so nice. It must have been expensive. Its scent was sharp, carrying a wild masculinity, not the bottle she had bought him. Yesterday. I thought I forgot my keys, but then I found them in my wallet, Maisie said, handing him his briefcase. I see. Chenming's expression relaxed. Maisie liked seeing this look on his face, like the serene deep pool they had visited, making her want to dive right in. When a man cheats, it's like a child making a mistake, covering it up clumsily, trying to pretend everything is fine. But his poor acting isn't even worth exposing. Chenming was coming home later and later. Although he wouldn't stay out all night, if coming back at dawn to shower and change counted as coming home, then there really wasn't much left worth holding on to. One time, Maisie waited by the window all night without seeing Chenming's car. She didn't even know when she fell asleep, only feeling as if she was in a deep, heavy dream, walking on a deserted plain. The wind was so strong that she felt utterly helpless. Chenming. Maisie shouted desperately in her dream, tears blurring her vision. The world was so cold, she didn't want to be left alone. Even if they couldn't share the same bed, she still wanted to hold his hand. Maisie, Maisie. A distant call. It was Chenming's voice. Maisie ran with all her might, chasing that voice, using up all her strength. Chenming, I knew you wouldn't leave me. We had promised to never let go. When she opened her eyes, Maisie saw a frantic Chenming shaking her shoulders vigorously. Almost violently, he put the hearing aid on Maisie's ear and pointed at the wall clock. Maisie, it's almost noon. Why are you still sleeping? You didn't answer my calls, and you didn't open the door. You almost caused a big problem, do you know that? Maisie shook her head, dazed. The veins on Chenming's forehead bulged, his eyes filled with harsh impatience, as if looking at an incompetent subordinate. I texted you last night saying I needed to come back in the morning to get a document. I forgot my keys and asked you to open the door. Didn't you see it? That contract is very important. If Xiaoyang hadn't held the client at the airport, do you know how serious the consequences would have been? Who is Xiaoyang? Maisie asked blankly. Chenming, furious, was momentarily stunned. He took a deep breath. Maisie, I'm already exhausted earning money to support this family. Can you please stop causing me trouble? You can't even handle such a small thing. Shaking his head in frustration, Chenming walked out the door. Maisie reached under her pillow for her phone, which was dead. Who would have thought a phone that hadn't rung for days would be needed yesterday? Sister, the locksmith fee is 100 yuan, said the locksmith standing awkwardly at the bedroom door, extending his hand for payment. Wait a moment, Maisie said, getting out of bed to find her wallet. The locksmith's expression suddenly turned to horror. Sister, what's wrong? Maisie collapsed to the ground, a glaring dark red stain spreading beneath her. Her stomach hurt, and she felt utterly exhausted. When Maisie opened her eyes again, Xiaoyang was slumped over at the bedside, fast asleep, drooling onto the bedsheet. Maisie gently pushed Xiaoyang, who woke up groggily and started crying. You're finally awake. You scared me to death. I thought I'd lose you forever. Too weak to speak, Maisie watched as Xiaoyang ran out to call the doctor. Xiaoyang was Maisie's only friend in the city, a web novelist living a mysterious, nocturnal life. After the doctor briefly checked Maisie's condition, he called Xiaoyang out of the room. Judging by the light outside, it was evening. Maisie wondered if Chenming would come home for dinner tonight. She struggled to get out of bed. What are you doing? The doctor said you need to rest. Xiaoyang burst back in and pushed Maisie back onto the bed. I wanted to see if Chenming had sent me any messages. Chenming, all you care about is Chenming. You should think about yourself for once. Xiaoyang was exasperated. Maisie said nothing more, staring blankly at the ceiling light. Xiaoyang wanted to say something but stopped herself after seeing Maisie's vacant expression. She walked to the door with the hot water bottle. Maisie asked, Did you pay the locksmith? Of course I did. Do you think he'd take you to the hospital without getting paid? Not everyone is as foolish as you. Xiaoyang didn't look back as she slammed the door. Maisie turned her head, staring out the window as the sun set, the dusk deepening. She didn't see Xiaoyuan outside the room, hugging the hot water bottle, crying like a heartbroken heroine. Earlier that day, Xiaoyuan had brought a box of crabs someone had given her, planning to share them with Maizi. But upon arriving, she found Maizi unconscious in a pool of blood, with a creepy man standing nearby, looking like a scene from a crime drama. Thinking quickly, Xiaoyuan attacked the supposed assailant with the box of crabs. The locksmith, while dodging, tried to explain the situation incoherently. That bastard, that heartless jerk. Xiaoyuan cursed loudly outside the operating room. The locksmith sat dejectedly, only brightening when Xiaoyuan handed him 1,000 yuan as compensation for his lost time and distress. He left with a smile. Xiaoyuan called Qin Ming, but a sweet voice answered. Mr. Qin is busy. Can I take a message? Maizi is in the hospital. Tell him to get here immediately. Who's Maizi? You're damn Maizi. Stupid fox, pretending to be all high and mighty. Xiaoyuan raged, earning a reprimand from the head nurse for causing a disturbance. Even after Maizi was settled in her room, Chenming was nowhere to be seen. Maizi, this is the man you risked your life to have a child with. This is the man you gave everything for, only to be left with nothing. Xiaoyuan cried bitterly. A male patient squatted down to comfort her. Miss, are you okay? I'm fine, Xiaoyuan sniffed. I just lost a box of crabs at noon. It broke my heart. Late at night, Maizi saw Xiaoyuan dozing off in the chair. She quietly took her phone from Xiaoyuan's bag and plugged it in to charge. There was a message from Qinming. With trembling fingers, she opened the message. I'm going on a business trip this week. My flight is this afternoon, so I won't be coming home. Have you given up yet? Xiaoyuan woke up at some point. Maizi's eyes reddened, tears streaming down uncontrollably. Xiaoyuan sat on the bed, wanting to comfort her, but saw Maizi typing a reply. Got it. Take care of yourself. For heaven's sake. Xiaoyuan looked up, asking the heavens for an answer. After being discharged from the hospital, Maizi moved in with Xiaoyuan. Never having had a boyfriend herself, Xiaoyuan quickly transformed into a top-notch maternity nurse, tirelessly taking care of Maizi. Freshly made chicken soup. Try it. Is it too salty? Silver ear and lotus seed soup, my specialty. Soybean stewed pig's feet, good for the skin. If I keep eating like this, I'm going to turn into a pig. Maizi forced down a bowl of a dark, nutrient-rich soup, fighting the nausea of morning sickness. You're eating for two now. You need to eat more. Thank you, Xiaoyuan. Without you, I don't know what I'd do. Maizi's words clearly startled Xiaoyuan, who had never been confessed to, causing her to blush and lower her head shyly. Xiaoyuan, promise me, if the time comes, I mean if it does, you must tell the doctor to save the baby. Maizi said softly. I can't promise that. Xiaoyuan pulled her hand away coldly. Please. Xiaomai, are you crazy? After everything he's done to you, you still want to have his baby. Does he care? Does he even accept this? Xiaoyuan stormed out to cool off. Of course, he cares. This is the child he's always wanted. Maizi's belly had already begun to show slightly. Inside was the gift she and Chenming had been longing for. A gift from heaven. Do you prefer a boy or a girl? Maizi asked Chenming during a prenatal checkup, just 2 months after they got married, when she first found out she was pregnant. A girl. One who listens well like you. Chenming held Maizi close as they squeezed onto the bus outside the hospital. Maizi indeed was the most obedient wife in the world. When Chenming said he was busy with work, she took the bus alone to the hospital for checkups. When he said he wanted to buy a car, she scrimped and saved, taking on extra jobs. When he said the pressure from work was too much and the child had come too early, she cried herself to sleep one night and went for an abortion the next day. After the procedure, the doctor regretfully said, "It's a shame. She was a beautiful girl." Maizi, drenched in sweat and too weak to stand, couldn't look the doctor in the eye as she slowly left the hospital, silently begging for her daughter's forgiveness. Back home, without even taking a sip of water, Chenming yelled at her, "Why did you do this? Why didn't you talk to me? I was afraid you'd disagree." Maizi's lips were pale. Of course, I would disagree. How could I agree to you killing our child? Chanming looked at her, breathless with anger. How could you be so heartless? For years after, Maisie often woke up from nightmares, dreaming of her unborn daughter reaching out to her. It was a lifelong regret, she knew, but she didn't regret it. Seeing Chanming free to pursue his career, she thought her cruelty was worth it. Chanming had always wanted a child. Over the years, they visited many hospitals, took many medications, and tried many methods. This child was hard-won. No matter what, she had to keep it. Maisie quietly left home. When Chanming returned from his business trip, he found a spotless table with a hearing aid and Maisie's wedding ring on it. The hearing aid was something he had recently had someone purchase from abroad. It was expensive. The ring was his anniversary gift to Maisie this year. It was also expensive. Maisie hadn't taken anything with her, but Chanming still felt an emptiness in his heart, as if something was missing. In the cafe below the company, Lu Shasha was confronting Chanming. My belly is getting harder to hide. Have you talked to your wife? She ran away from home. I can't get in touch with her lately. Chanming was at his wit's end. He had initially hoped to make a clean break, but now this woman was pregnant. It was a critical time for his promotion to vice president, and if the higher-ups at the company found out he had gotten his secretary pregnant, he'd be in big trouble. Maybe she ran off with some pretty boy behind your back, Lu Shasha sneered. Shut up. She's nothing like you. Chanming growled. Maisie could never be that kind of woman. They had known each other since they were 7, having met in the orphanage, and they had endured so much together. No one could understand the bond they shared, a bond far greater than love. Don't yell at me. I'm warning you. Don't think you can ditch me, or you'll regret it, Lu Shasha retorted, equally defiant. Distraught all day, Chanming went to stake out Xiaoyang's place after work. He knew Maisie must be there. It was the only place she could go in this city. But that crazy Xiaoyang, whenever she saw him, acted like a wolf seeing a rabbit, ready to bite at any moment. Despite several attempts, he hadn't seen Maisie. It had been almost 2 months since he last saw Maisie. In all these years, they had never been apart for so long. Maisie was like his hand, his eyes. He was so used to her presence. This sudden separation left him at a loss. The house was a mess. He couldn't find anything after the cleaning lady came. In the empty house, he wanted to throw a fit but had no one to vent to. Someone knocked on his car window. Xiaoyang's face, like a gatekeeper's, was pressed against the glass. Didn't I tell you? If you come again, I'll beat you every time I see you. Xiaoyang opened the car door and got in. I really need to talk to Maisie. Please let me see her. Talk about what? How you hooked up with a big-chested woman. Xiaoyang put down her shopping bag, revealing a new kitchen knife inside. This is between my wife and me. Really? You still remember she's your wife? Xiaoyang pulled out the knife. Chanming saw there was also a hammer in the bag. You calm down. I am calm, very calm. I'd love to bash your skull in and see what's inside. Xiaoyang gritted her teeth. But I have to stay calm for my best friend's sake, so her child doesn't grow up without a father. What? Maisie is pregnant. What are you talking about? Chanming thought it was impossible. They slept in the same bed every night. How could she be pregnant without him knowing? It seemed laughable, but then he realized he couldn't remember the last time they slept together. 3 months. For months? The doctor advised her to terminate the pregnancy because her body can't handle childbirth. Do you understand? Xiaoyang recounted the doctor's words from the hospital. If the patient insists on keeping the baby, she could face severe complications like massive bleeding or respiratory failure during delivery. When she found out she was pregnant, I advised her to have an abortion. But on the day of the surgery, for some reason, she left the hospital. You're lying. Chanming's lips trembled. He knew Xiaoyang was a novelist with a knack for making up stories. Xiaoyang sneered and threw 2 words at him before getting out of the car. Coward. Under Xiaoyang's persistent threats, Maisie finally agreed to be hospitalized. As her pregnancy progressed, so did the risks. Since Maisie had decided to trade her life for her child's, Xiaoyang resolved to support her all the way, staying by her side as long as she could. Xiaoyang didn't tell Maisie about her encounter with Chanming that day. She didn't want to make herself feel worse, and she feared it would break Maisy's heart. The baby is developing well, Maisy. Keep it up. The doctor smiled as he examined her. Thank you, Maisy said carefully as she got up. The sun is nice today. You should go outside and get some sunlight. It's good for you and the baby, the doctor suggested kindly. Maisy sat on the lawn in the garden, feeling the warmth of the sun. It felt as if she might melt away. Come and sit down. Don't just stand there, Maisy said without turning her head, eyes closed. Chunming awkwardly sat down beside her, placing Maisy's hand on his Adam's apple. I didn't wear cologne today, and you still knew it was me. Maisy opened her eyes slightly and looked at the man in front of her. In just a few months, he seemed to have aged a few years. Always meticulous, his collar now had visible stains. How could I not know? It's you, after all, Maisy said as she sat up. Chunming saw Maisy's swollen belly. This was his child, truly his, sharing his bloodline. Did you come to deliver the divorce papers? Maisy suddenly asked, catching Chunming off guard. His prepared opening speech suddenly became useless. No, The always eloquent Chunming found himself tongue-tied. He didn't know how to explain to Maisy what had happened in the past few months. Lu Shasha had hooked up with another vice president at the company, reported him to the boss for coercing female colleagues, and amid her tearful accusations, he was demoted and became a laughingstock within the company. Why did you do this to me? I risked everything for you. Chunming confronted Lu Shasha. Lu Shasha sneered and pushed him away. Don't make it sound so noble. I never forced you. You were the one eager to serve me. I was just playing along. Bitch, he was furious. Lu Shasha gave him a look of disgust before getting into the vice president's sports car. What about the child? What are you planning to do? Chunming blocked the car. Lu Shasha and the vice president burst into laughter. Wiping away tears of laughter, Lu Shasha said, What child? There never was a child. Did you really think I would want to have your baby? Indeed, the only fool willing to bear his child was Maisy. It's all my fault. I was blinded and betrayed you. Chunming muttered to himself. Stop it. It's all in the past. Maisy comforted him. Chunming lowered his head in guilt, then suddenly looked up. He saw that Maisy wasn't wearing her hearing aid and hadn't placed her hand on his throat, so Maisy gently placed her hand on his lips. I told you, I want to feel you with all my heart, not through a device. I did it. Isn't that amazing? Tears fell onto Maisy's hand. 1 drop, 2 drops, 3 drops. Why didn't you tell me? I was afraid you would feel awkward, Maisy sighed. How could she explain that when she heard him talking to his lover about how unpleasant his wife's voice was, she had learned to read his lips? When he told clients that women outside were more interesting than his dull wife, she hated herself for knowing how to read lips. When he chatted and laughed with others, only to be silent with her, she wished she had never learned to read lips. This way, at least when he saw her without the hearing aid, he could still be himself. Maisy slowly lay back on the grass, watching the clouds drift apart like she and Chunming. She once thought they would be together forever. He was her ears, her eyes, her lifelong support. But now, they were destined to part before seeing half of life's scenery together. Maisy, there's something I need your help with. Only you can help me, Chunming said. He knew Maisy would help him. They had been together since they were 7. What is it? Maisy knew that whatever it was, she would agree. She just couldn't be a disobedient wife. No way, I won't agree to it even if you beat me to death, Xiaoyang fumed, pacing back and forth in the hospital room. Keep your voice down, I'm just discussing it with you, Maisy said nervously, glancing at the door, worried the doctor would hear and come in. It doesn't matter if we discuss it. Are you stupid? Xiaoyang rolled her eyes in exasperation. You're about to give birth, understand? You need to stay in the hospital and be ready for surgery at any moment. It's just a party, 2 or 3 hours at most. Chunming will bring me back right away, Maisy pleaded. Chunming, my foot. Is your life more important, or his job? At this point, you're still thinking about him. Xiaoyang was so angry she couldn't speak. Maisy turned her head away. When Chunming had asked her, she had hesitated. But this was his most important career moment. If she accompanied him to the banquet and the president saw he had a happy family, it might clear up the misunderstandings about him. He wouldn't be so down and out anymore. Sneaking out of the hospital and avoiding Xiaoyang wasn't too difficult. Wearing the evening dress Qinming had prepared, Maisie walked into the dazzling venue with him, her palms sweating from nerves. "Don't be nervous, just keep smiling," Qinming whispered in her ear. All night long, Maisie smiled. By the time they left the venue, she felt she had used up all the smiles she had for a lifetime. Maisie, Qinming's voice grew distant. Maisie felt something breaking inside her. What was it? Hope. Or her love for Qinming? At the orphanage, a group of boys was bullying a little girl, trying to take her snacks. "Beat the deaf girl. Beat her. Don't bully her." A small, frail boy ran over and stood in front of the girl, using sign language to communicate. Another deaf kid? "Beat him too. Beat him." The boy took the beating for the girl. Sitting under the big tree in the orphanage, his face covered in mud, he wiped away his tears. The girl, clutching a candy that had survived the ordeal, held it out to him. "Don't worry, I'll protect you from now on." The boy, with the candy in his mouth, used his dirty little hands to sign to her. The girl smiled and nodded, taking the boy's outstretched hand. "My name is Qinming. I'm Xiaoyang. Your name has one more character than mine. So, I'll call you Maisie." "Okay." In the silent breeze, the seeds of an unspoken bond were planted beneath the tree. The orphanage director watched the stubborn Maisie, wondering how a mere 15-year-old could be so difficult to persuade. "Let Qinming have this chance. He needs the surgery more than I do," Maisie said, managing to utter a few simple words accompanied by gestures. She was determined to let Qinming take her place for the surgery. If successful, Qinming would be able to hear the wind, the birds, and even her voice. Because of Maisie's insistence, Qinming underwent the surgery. It was a success, and Qinming regained 80% of his hearing, allowing him to live like a normal person. "Maisie, from now on, I'll be your ears. I'll tell you about the whole world." Maisie never told Qinming that her whole world was him. When did Qinming stop wanting to be Maisie's whole world? Was it at 22, when he took Maisie to a KTV and she sang a song badly amidst their friends' teasing? Was it at 23, when he overheard classmates mocking him for having a disabled girlfriend? Was it at 24, during their wedding, when Maisie struggled to say, "I do," and someone in the audience laughed? Or was it at 25, when the doctor said Maisie had missed the optimal time for surgery and would never have normal hearing? They had promised to walk hand in hand, never abandoning each other. But why did Qinming let go? Standing by Maisie's grave, he used sign language to tell her, "Our daughter is 1 year old now, very cute. She can call out mommy. Her voice is beautiful, just like yours, exactly like you." The photo on the tombstone showed Maisie smiling serenely. She had always been a quiet person. Even during childbirth, she lay silently on the hospital bed. Qinming touched Maisie's photo. "If you hadn't given up that surgery, would we still be together today? If I could, I would give up everything just to keep you." In the distance, holding a bouquet of lilies, Xiaoyang watched Qinming use sign language to talk to Maisie. She whispered softly, "Maisie, why don't you understand? From the moment he became a whole person at your expense, he loved himself more than he loved you. Maisie, I don't understand your love, but as long as you felt it was worth it, I'll support you."